Welcome back to Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast, the recap of the Women's World Championships Road Race 2025 in Kigali, Rwanda. We've also had the men's juniors, U23s, the women's juniors, and U23s. Yep. Women's juniors was this morning. And so we're seeing how the course is playing. We're seeing what are the important points, what are the characteristics of the course, but we haven't seen it in the elites. This episode's brought to you by Morton. Longer distances means better fueling, and we have a longer distance race today, 164 Ks, and they do 10 laps of the Kigali circuit. No Mont Kigali, so it is just two of the punchy climbs. One of them's bitumen, it's not cobbles. The Côte de Kigali Golf, 800 meters at 8.1% with a steep section in it. There's then a descent, and then they do the Côte de Kimihurura, which is 1.3k, 6.3%. The first part of it is really steep in cobbles, and then it levels off, but that's the cobble climb, and the finish is just after that on an uphill paved kicker. So, did you change your mind on the race, having seen any of the junior or U23 races beforehand? Anything at the course, actually seeing it being ridden?
I don't know. I feel like it just became more clear that the roads are wider, and that does have an effect in races with cobbles. Because if you look at normal cobble classics, then the Molenberg, for example, is a narrow section, but also the way you turn into the Molenberg is a 90-degree corner, stuff like that. We don't really have that with this Kimihurura climb, so it's like a wide road with a pretty speedy run-in, which changes the dynamic a little bit because positioning is not as... It's still relevant, but it's not as devastating if you're in P20, because P20 still means you'll probably have a gap to do something on the right side of the road because it's so wide. So that's the thing that came more to me. But I gotta say, it took me a while to figure out. I know it's early in the podcast to go for a rant, but I am of the opinion that countries should be illegal to build roads that are equally wide throughout their entire country. A city needs to have 50% wide roads, 50% narrow roads, so that when cycling comes to you, that when we're watching the World Championships, can easily figure out, when looking at the lap, oh, we're on that part of the lap because here is a narrow section. Yeah, there's limited milestones here in the lap where I'm like, this is that part.
I think they do have narrow roads in Kigali, but they're not suitable, at least for the World Championships.
What do you mean not suitable? I heard the UCI is counting mountain bike points for the UCI road ranking, so
I saw them
might as well ride in the mud.
I saw them redoing the cobbles, and I was like, Belgium wouldn't do that for you. Like when there's a Belgian race, they're just like, that's the cobbles. But yeah, maybe it's just to do with urbanization. Again, in Australia, you can't find a narrow road. In Queensland, they don't exist. So yeah, bring back narrow roads for the people to walk on, I would say, or for the cars to slow down. We had Pauline Ferrand-Prévot, the favourite for the race. Other top favourites were Demi Vollering, Elisa Longo-Borghini of the Netherlands and Italy. All three had very strong teams. We had Reusser, obviously in good shape because she won the World Championships time trial. And then the isolator rider, Kim Lacourt-Pina from Mauritius. She kind of had to hope the race came to her, but definitely had a target on her back after winning in Liège and a stage in the Tour de France. So the question for me was, remember, no race radios. They don't have race radios. So when your teammate goes ahead and they're around the corner and they have a puncture, they crash, they get dropped, they're not feeling good, they can't communicate that with you. So you're having to, you don't know. You don't know whether they may be the strongest in the group ahead. Should you keep pacing? So no race radios. That always plays a big role in these international events. We saw that in Tokyo when Kiesenhofer won.
Yep.
And her countrywoman was in the breakaway, probably trying a similar thing. Schrempf from Phoenix to Koenig, the Austrian, was solo with like 2 minutes 30 ahead.
Yeah, she was up the road for quite a while. Her gap kept expanding 2 minutes 30, like you said, but it was kind of a waiting game. We're in a waiting game where we're trying to figure out who's going to go first when it comes to outsiders. Are we going to see some action from the bigger teams, which I'd classify the Netherlands, France, and Italy as well under, I would say. As those kind of teams, I would expect to react to each other, to try and play the race, to try and hurt the others of those big teams. And I feel like we saw that pretty quickly, because with about 70 kilometers to go, roughly, we saw a bridge from a Belgian. We don't have many in this race, but Julie van der Velde bridge towards the breakaway, and there was 2 riders up the road for a little bit until we saw behind that the first attack of many of Cédric Kerbal of France. That attack did not work. Most of her attacks were in the sense. We'll get to Kerbal as a whole in this race later, I think, once we get through a few of her attacks. But in this specific occasion, Van Anrooy counters and basically bridges towards those 2 riders up the road, Schrempf and Van der Velde. But how did you see the dynamic between France and the Netherlands at that point in the race?
It was strange, because first Netherlands were trying to get a group going. De Vries was attacking, and every time Italy and France block, nothing. Defensive. We got our leader. We got Ferron Prevot. We got Elisa Longoborghini. We're going to bring them to the last 2 laps, and they're going to try to win the race. That looked like what France and Netherlands' strategy was. Then Kerbal jumps, and then gets followed. Bang, counter, Van Anrooy's ahead. It's like, wasn't the strategy should have been to just follow the Netherlands when they go anywhere? Because again, if you're not represented in groups, it's dangerous. If you're represented in a big group with a bad rider, it's almost more dangerous. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, I didn't really understand the Kerbal moves. I assumed if the goal was to win with PFP, because it's not like Kerbal jumping is going to affect Vollering, KLCP, or Elisa Longoborghini. They each have like 3 domestiques left, and KLCP is not going to do anything.
But also the factor that made it more clear for me is that we always talk about demon descender Cédric Kerbal. I actually think she's not that much better of a descender than the top descenders in the peloton. I think she's on point with those riders. I think the point where she really matters in those descents, where she prevails in a lot of descending, is when she takes more risks. But the descents on this parkour are big straight roads, etc., so it's much harder to take gaps on those descents on riders that might be a little bit worse when it comes to descending. So the majority of her attacks in this race came on those kinds of descents, and then I see her coming out of the corner at the end of that descent, completely bottling the corner in doing so, and as a result, the entire group is in your wheel anyway. So it's like, you know that the other riders in that group are not going to attack in the descent, so Kerbal attacking in that descent is useless for me, because the others aren't trying to jump at that point. If you want to get ahead, hypothetically, then you try and jump when other people are jumping, so that you try and form a group together, not in the moment where others are trying to attack the least.
Exactly, or at the very least when there's no one up the road.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and we see it happen again later. The worst time to jump is when you should be chasing, because you remove cooperation from other teams that might have been chasing. In this phase of the race, I would say Italy took on the majority of the responsibility for controlling the race. So Van Anrooy was ahead. That was really reacted to. I think there was a group before with Van der Velde. But yeah, people were happy with the Van der Velde group, but and Blanca Vash, they were happy with her at 30 seconds. Not so with Van Anrooy. That was really controlled. And then we see another move go as Van Anrooy's brought back at 54 Ks to go. Yeah. So at this point, we've had France in position, not controlling, but sometimes doing a little bit of controlling. We've had Italy doing a lot of controlling with Trinca Colonel.
Too much?
When they bring... Pardon?
Did Italy invest too much at that phase in the race, which might have cost them team-wise later?
No, just pace. Like, I don't want to get to that point yet. I got to bottle up my rant so it comes out at once. No. Did they not have a teammate there in the last lap?
Well, yeah, but we'll talk about that. So, we're not there yet.
We're not there yet. This was a special one. So Benito goes, Tuna, and like I was like, this is a thermonuclear attack. Everyone else was like, what the fuck?
Tuna?
Because pardon?
Tuna?
Yeah. A bonito is a medium-sized predatory fish. It's like it's a tuna-like fish.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
That's the most random thing you've said on a podcast
you
in a
never
while.
had bonito flakes before?
No.
They're pretty good on like rice with some seaweed. It's in Japanese food.
Talking about food.
Oh, great segue. Yeah, if you don't want to have the taste of bonito flakes in your gel when you're running or cycling, then you should get the Morton gels and hydrogels in drink mixes, because the taste is completely natural. You don't have any of the stomach issues, and the carb content is it's pretty simple to line up. You don't have to guess. 20, 40, 60 grams at a time in whatever format works for you. I like to have the gels on hotter days or when I'm feeling hungry, but I'm doing like low intensity exercise. I, of course, have the cocoa bars. I have them, probably too much because they're too tasty. Sometimes when I need a little snack, I'll have one of them. But the hydrogel is the real game changer in the drink mixes and the gels. It delivers carbs through your stomach without the usual or possible bloating or nausea, so you can actually hit higher grams per hour, which is all the rage. All these riders and the world champs will be doing over 100 grams of carbs an hour, no doubt. It's got no artificial flavors, no preservatives. Morton's just clean, reliable fuel that works when the pace goes up. So right now, you can get 20% off, which is a pretty good discount, I would say. 20% off your first order of Morton Hydrogel products with the code LRMorton2025 at morton.com. And indeed, some of these athletes will be bringing the Morton themselves, paying for it to come to, especially in hot conditions like Kigali, to eat it there.
But gotta talk about that Benito attack. Benito, I don't know if we can classify it as a thermonuclear attack, but it was a pretty hard attack, actually. It was fierce. Noemi Rüegg, Swiss rider in the wheel, so Spain and Switzerland now moving up, and those are then the two leaders up the road, and spoilers, Kerbal attacks in the next descent. Italy closes that. And it takes about 3 kilometers before we get over the top of the Kigali Golf climb. And that's when we see a move by Niamh Fisher-Black, stopped by Royakkers. So it seems like Italy and Netherlands in this specific 10-kilometer phase of the race were neutralizing moves and not necessarily trying to jump in them. Kerbal keeps trying once again, attacking the descent. And honestly, I started focusing on the back of the peloton for a little bit, because those two riders were up the front, and it took about 10 kilometers from other people then to actually make separation in the peloton. But I just want to mention, Brodie Chapman in this race is my spirit animal. Genuinely, the amount of times I looked at the back of the peloton from 50 kilometers to go and saw Brodie Chapman drop, for her to come back 5 minutes later, attack the group, get caught, get dropped, return, attack, a roller coaster. Genuinely, it could have been a drinking game, but that was a bit of a side story in this race. But I think it takes until about 44 kilometers to go before we start seeing moves again in the peloton, where it's Spratt trying to make a move, Ivica Muzic chasing that down, and then we see the second move that includes a Swiss rider, Patrick. And we're starting to see a pattern here where, like you said, Vash again, for the second time, attacking, and Lichty as well, which is also a Swiss rider. So now there's 2 Swiss riders up the road. And we get followed by a Kerbal attack, once again in the descent, closed by the Netherlands, which was Anna van der Breggen. And then, I'll get you talking soon, don't worry. I'll get a question to you soon.
But bear in mind, at this time, Italy were trying to control.
Yeah.
And then every time Kerbal would attack them, and then they'd be like, well, we're not gonna control anymore if you're gonna behave like that. That just kept happening.
Every lap. And
what's it achieving when it's not tiring out any of the other leaders?
Yep.
It's not bringing you closer to the front of the race, which is gaining an advantage with more and more riders. It's demotivating domestiques of other teams who were willing to chase for Longoborghini. It's counterproductive.
And lastly, it's wasting your energy, because with 37 kilometers to go, Marie-Lené attacks over the top of the Côte de Kigali Golf, and at the back of the group, it's Kerbal in trouble. She's starting to suffer and be gapped by this group. Same for Anna van der Breggen, who she wasn't dropped at this point, but she was like yo-yoing at the back of the group together with Royakkers. I don't know if Royakkers was staying with her, etc. I don't think so. I think they were both suffering at this point. Lene gets caught pretty swiftly though, but that's when something else happens. We get another French move, not by Kerbal, not by Lene. So Lene was the first move here. The following move is by Evita Muzic, who goes, and that's what forms a second group behind those two groups that were already on the road. So just to guide you for a little, the first group on the road is Benito and Ruk. The second group on the road is Vash and Lichti. And then the third group on the road that gets created is a group with Muzic, Niedermayer, Mavi Garcia, Rianne Marcus, Nee Fisher Black, Valieres, Kaluori, the third Swiss rider up the road, and Malcotti. Patrick, is this the start of representation fallacy? And if so, for which countries?
I mean, you or your wife texted it in the group chat, like, as it
was
formed.
My wife. I was sleeping.
Yeah, I'll give credits where the proper credits, the real brains behind the organization.
Yeah.
I was like, this is it. Because you can already tell what's going to happen. Italy are like, oh, well, we have a rider ahead. Netherlands like, we have a rider ahead. France say, we have Evita Muzic ahead. Evita Muzic is really good. No, she's not. She's not. What? This year, what's she been close to winning?
We said the same in the Hill Classics, I think. This exact same scenario with FDJ Suez.
Like, they think she's someone she's not. She's a solid rider. She's not winning. Not even out of a group like this. Zero chance. Marcus, maybe if she can TT away, but I wouldn't count on it either. And you say, oh, well, they'll sit on. Okay, but now the groups, that works if they're two in a group of four. Yeah. But now it's a group, it's a bigger group. And who starts pulling? Valieres, very strong. She starts pulling a lot, the Canadian. And Fisher Black, she'd attacked before. She'd attacked again. I said Wiley. Ella Wiley also attacks behind her at a certain point. But Fisher Black, now she is in good shape this year. Were it not for the crash or mechanical in the tour, she was the third strongest on that Col de la Madeleine. She's in good shape this year.
And the final stage too.
Pardon?
The final stage of the Tour de France Femme, Fisher Black was also one of the strongest riders.
Yeah, she was the third strongest on that mountain stage, and then Mavi Garcia won a punchy tour stage.
Yeah.
And she's in the group. So those three are like, sweet. No Ilonga Borghini, no Kimlecourt Pina, no Reusser, no Vollering. Meanwhile, circle back to the peloton, and so we do have Rouge ahead with Benito. Garcia, though, correctly, she pulls still. She's like, well, I'm not going to just let Benito play for the win with Rouge.
She always does. So
yeah,
it's regardless of a tactical situation. This is also my wife who said it next to me was a funny anecdote where she said, if there's one rider up here that deserves to win, it's Mavi Garcia, because she's domestiqued for every single rider in the peloton and every single race that she's ridden, which is true. She always rides regardless of the tactical situation, sometimes when it benefits her and sometimes when it doesn't. But in this situation, it's perfectly fine to do so because Benito attacked, but at the end of the day, if you can get two riders up the front, then especially Mavi Garcia
and Rouge is better.
And also add to that they're not on the same trade team, so that added detail is also a little bit. But also, like you said, Rouge is better. It's a situation where I don't fault Switzerland and Spain anything at this point, because you could say that Switzerland is also putting themselves in a representation fallacy with Reusser at the back and three Swiss riders up here, but it's better to have three than one, you know?
They got three. And Rouge was good in World Champs last year. I think 11th, 14th. Yep. She just, I think if Rouge could have come across in the Valieres group, it looks different for her, but she spent a lot of laps with Benito, like 15, 18 Ks, where on this circuit, when you're on your own or with one other rider on the downhill section from the cobble climb, where you go back around before the Kigali Golf climb, that section's brutal if you're on your own. It's like a rolling downhill. You have to be on the pedals. In the peloton, people are freewheeling, including over the uphills, because you hit them with such speed. So she was kind of cooking herself there. Anyway, we got about 3 laps to go of the 2 climbs. We get to about 7 Ks to go, or a bit after that. The gap's 30 seconds. It's not out of control yet. And then it makes France seem to take the correct responsibility. They have Music ahead, who's not pulling. Marcus isn't pulling. Malcotti's not pulling. But Kerbal sets in and looks like she's going to start to pace to keep this gap at 30 to 25 seconds, which is the correct thing to do. They still have Lebu there. And then they get to the top of the kicker of the finish line. Elisa Longoborghini attacks. And from this point on, the favorites group lose their minds, basically.
And it's like, finally France has gotten over the obstacle of not keeping up the attacks and realizing that they should do something behind and Kerbal pacing. And then at that exact point, we see an attack by LB then, who I don't fault that either, because the gap towards the front is not a minute 30 at this point. It's still like 30, 40 seconds, whatever. It's ELB attacking, I think Niviadoma following, Reusser following, KLCP as well, and also Dygert. So those riders looked strong. I was more looking at the group behind that was gapped for a bit when that attack happens, because it was a pretty fierce attack, and Pauline Ferrand-Prévot was behind, Vollering was behind, and they were kind of just next to each other yodeling for the majority of this race, I felt like. And was it Lebu that closed the gap eventually?
So
it was a French rider.
Lebu does an all-out effort to close this gap to the very strong group ahead. KLCP, it was clearly her. The best way for her to win is to get into a group with other leaders and then cooperate and then try to beat them at the end. Unfortunately for her, the race ends here for the favorites group. Ends here. Lebu brings that back, and then France have Kerbal coming back. Italy have numbers. The Netherlands have multiple numbers. They now enter like a collective delusion. No one's going to pace. Just no one's going to pace. The gap goes from 30 seconds. It peaked at 140 on the ticker. So they just literally freewheeled the lap back to the next climb.
But let's think about who's in this group at the moment. We've got Lebu still there. She was the one that closed the gap towards the LB attack. We just said it. Vollering is obviously still there. Ferrand-Prévot is there for France as well, I think. So that's 2 riders for France at least. Netherlands, you've got Vollering, and Van der Breggen has been dropped by now, so she's gone. Royakkers is either off the back or holding on for dear life. I feel like Netherlands is kind of in a situation where Vollering's pretty isolated right now, no? With 30 kilometers to go?
Because Van der Breggen was cooked. There's no Vos here. And this is why having the riders ahead is not helpful. So they don't have race radios, so they don't know. Music and Marcus were getting cooked on every climb. Every climb, Vallières, Garcia, and Fisher Black were cooking everybody. Every time. And Marcus was coming back a bit. Music looked bad. They don't know that. And not just are they're up there getting dropped, they can't fight for the win. They're up there not being able to pace instead of Lebu. So you got 3 domestiques ahead, Malcotti, Music, and Marcus, who were the reason you didn't pace in the first place and let the gap out, who are now can't win in front, and also are not with you to pace back to the front on the lap before the next climb. So the gap just absolutely explodes. Well, everyone's watching like, can this be correct, this ticker? Like, what are they doing? Are they just... I just don't understand it. Like, you train your ass off for the world champs, you come to the event, you fly to Rwanda to be like, nah, we don't need to pace, it's all good. I'm happy to let Rihanna Marcus fight for the win in front. I'm happy to let Evita Music fight for the win in front. Right. I'm happy to let Malcotti fight for the win in front. What? Let
me trigger your next round. And then Kerbal comes to the front in the descent and attacks the group with a gap of 1 minute 45 instead of pacing. What?
Yeah.
I had no words. I was looking at my screen. I was like,
You can't win the race, even if you beat your opponent, who you think is your only opponent, if another group crosses the finish line first.
Fair.
And so they're so scared of they're scared of Kim LeCourt Pinar but she doesn't have any teammates.
Exactly.
So what bluff are you going to call? Just accept the race situation now. You have to get the group back that's in front. And if KLCP wins, well, at least you got a chance to fight for the win, you know? If I was scared of my dad, I still have to go to dinner. Otherwise, I wouldn't eat. So, that's the life.
Pretty sad story.
Well, yeah, but what's the alternative? You go hungry.
Yeah. That is
and
true.
that's what happens. So they just let the gap go. It stays
The
at 140.
is weird, but I just feel bad for you now.
Nah, don't worry. Don't worry about me, Benji.
You look well fed now, so.
Yeah, I had the last week. I'm pretty well fed.
The 17 Morton bars, so.
So I did have a couple too many today.
Anyway,
no, it was more
back to the race situation here. Breakaway up the road. Came
and
together.
the gap does not change until the next climb. So 8Ks, the gap does not change, and it's just 130. And basically, I'm pretty sure that then the teammates had been dropped at this point, and now it compounds. So Chapman comes back and attacks with Ella Wiley. Chapman had been dropped about 2 hours before.
Wait. Let me sketch it to make it clear. So the breakaway had come together at the front, which was 10 riders, including Muzic, Marcus, etc. And it's with 22 kilometers to go that Rianne Marcus, Niedermayer, Malcotti, and Muzic drop off the back. And at similar time in the group behind, like you say, Brody Chapman returns from the dead for the 17th time in this race and attacks with Ella Wiley up the road. That is the setup we have towards basically the Kimi Hirura, where we see an attack by a favorite again.
And but all those 3 riders that got dropped, though, Muzic, Marcus, Malcotti, they don't wait.
Yep.
They just keep riding their race in the middle of doing what? Doing what? You can't say the race radios call. You have to know that you're not winning in front. You should wait.
I agree with you there. I fully agree with you there. The reality of the situation is that Marcus then thinks probably in her mind, okay, maybe if I can keep it up, I can stay within 10 seconds and maybe I can get back and do a surprise attack later in the race, stuff like that, which is not completely impossible, but very unlikely. Extremely unlikely, because at the end of the day, you're there with a Niamh Fisher-Black, Valieres, and Mavi Garcia, who are super strong on that Kigali Goldville, where they end up riding away, all the 3 of them together with 22 kilometers to go. So, especially Muzic is the worst one for me, because she literally got dropped before this climb already. She got gapped before this climb and came back. And that's the worst part for me. But yeah, we've had a lot of question marks about this representation fallacy up the road again. Representation fallacy is gone now. Completely gone. So you'd argue, okay, they're going to get their shit together behind, right? And
yeah, but they still don't know that their teammates have been dropped or not necessarily.
Yeah.
That's the problem with letting the gap get out of control, because it's then when it's time to chase, it's too late. And that's what happens. It's too late. There's an attack by Royce on the Kimi Hirura with 17 Ks to go. Longoborghini reacts late. Kim LeCourt Pinar goes across. She attacks across. Shabby's in the wheel. It looks good for Royce though. She's got 2 or maybe 1 teammate ahead. And so
Kalawari.
She's got her ahead. That doesn't really work out as a satellite rider. She goes straight past her. And then, but by the way, it's then Fisher Black, Garcia, Valieres in front. And the reason that group won, Marcus does make it back. In fairness to Marcus, she does make it back to that group. She tries to attack them on a fast section and put Fisher Black under pressure. She can't get away. At least she was fighting for a medal. So you can defend Marcus there, and also Vollering maybe wasn't feeling good. But that group 1's perfect, because all 3, aside from Marcus, they have no one to ride for behind. A medal at this race is the biggest achievement of their career. They're going to be fully committed.
Important detail though, you mentioned a move by Reusser, you mentioned a move by KLCP, but in doing so, Kim LeCourt Pinar brings Shabby also to Reusser. So we've got the situation where, like you said, up the road is Niamh Fisher-Black, Valieres, and Mavi Garcia. But then the chasing group is Reusser, Shabby, Kim LeCourt Pinar, and one more rider that I'm completely forgetting at the moment. I think it's a rider they caught along the way. I think it might have been Malcotti that was still in the running at that point. But it looks like Reusser is just doing the tempoing at this point. She's doing the pacing, and LeCourt Pinar is not taking over really at this point. And Shabby's Shabby looked to me like she was on the brink of perishing, but that thought quickly left my mind once we hit the next Kigali golf climb. But what were the gaps at this point? It was still a minute, right, roughly?
No, the gap to Royce was not big.
True,
the gap to Royce was not that big. It was like 30 seconds, and that's why the problem with letting this front group get too much time was they disrespected them. They are not some random scrubs. Fisher
Black 25 seconds even.
It was tight. Fisher Black did the final climb, or the final Kigali, the Kigali golf, I think.
Yeah.
As fast as Shabby. And Shabby dropped Kim LaCourte-Pina. So the problem was the group in front were also really strong. You weren't just going to bring them back on one rep of the hills with 25, 30 seconds, and they kept cooperating. But I was surprised. I would have thought the roles would be reversed, that Shabby would have paced for Royce, but actually, I think they got it right. Because when you see, they did get it right. Because, Shabby drops KLCP behind. Ferrand-Prévot had Labou pacing, and Ferrand-Prévot's done nothing all race. Every lap, we were like, she's going to go now. She then attacks on a rise. She gets Nivea Doma and Longa Borghini with her. There's a Swiss not pulling.
Giant gears, by the way.
Yeah, big gear. Vollering's getting dropped. She comes back to them. And then it's still not over. I still think it is over, probably, but we'll never know. They get close to Malcotti, who, by the way, been on Royce's wheel not pulling. And I'm like, all right, here we go. Malcotti's leading the group of all the big favorites, which is KLCP, Vollering, Longa Borghini, Ferrand-Prévot, etc. But Malcotti's going to pull all out between the Côte de Kigali and the cobble climb, or after the cobble climb. Don't care.
Before, you're right.
And because they got to solve the situation of the group in front. It's now or never. Malcotti goes off the front to attack.
And Longa Borghini, it looked to me like Longa Borghini was looking at the others and saying, my teammate is riding off the front. And then she has to close it herself because Malcotti really is no factor here. She's not a pawn you can play with anymore. She just dropped off the front.
There's a group 30 seconds ahead, 40 seconds ahead.
Fighting for the victory. You got to try and catch them.
So that was crazy. I don't think it would have made a difference, but anyway.
Too late.
The group of favorites then literally stop pedaling at all. They go from 40 seconds, they finish on 1:34 off the winner. Ferrand-Prévot and Longa Borghini even more. They just lose a minute in 4Ks of the final of the World Championships. Shabby never gets across. It went on the last cobble climb, Benji. I thought Shabby was winning. I thought she was going to get across to Fisher Black, Garcia, and Valliers, and I thought she was going to drop them all or beat them in the sprint. But she never gets across because Fisher Black was so strong. Those three relay, Valliers attacks on the final cobble climb, gets Fisher Black on a gap. They just can't respond to her initial attack and explosivity. 12th in Brabantse Pijl, which you have to be good on the Mosca Strat. You have to be able to climb a steep cobble climb to get a result there. 12th there. One professional victory before, which was in a Mallorcan race.
Trofeo Palma, no disrespect, my friend.
Well, yeah, it's not the biggest race.
It's a Palma race, though.
She was the strongest in that group. Definitely the strongest in that group. She was one of the strongest in the race overall. This was not like the Anna Kiesenhofer win. Valliers was extremely strong. I'd be very interested to see her split times compared to the Peloton favorites group on some of these key climbs, because I think she was one of the strongest today.
Yep, that is true. We gave her take on Anna Kiesenhofer back in the day when she won that Olympics road race. We both had the opinion that, let's be honest, she only won because because the Netherlands fucked up. But that didn't take away from her putting herself in that position to win. This is different to me, where Vallières does put herself in the position to win, but also is just super strong to begin with, that if she wrote this from the GC group, I'm calling it GC group, there's no GC in a one-day race, but you know what I mean, the favorites group, that she could definitely top 7, top 6 the race with the strength that she showed here. I can't tell you that she's going to follow a Longa Borghini attack or a LaCourte-Pina in the final lap if it all comes down to the final lap. That's a different situation. but she was super strong in this race, and she's a rider that I think if you're a mainstream cycling viewer, a mainstream women's cycling viewer, for example, then you might not have heard from her too much, but she's domestique quite a few times for other riders at EF. She's also had a few chances for herself at EF Education First, and she's always been there in the last 20, 25 riders when it comes to climbing races. So she's definitely a rider that can do the climbing, especially the puncher races, because you mentioned Brabant-Sapel. I think Flèche Wallonne is a better example, because if you look at the top 20 of Flèche Wallonne, then she finishes 14th around the likes of Royakkers, Kopecky, Evita Muzic, Fisher Black, and those are the type of riders, especially Fisher Black here, that are then in that front group that she ends up beating. So it wouldn't shock me if, well, I'd say that, but today's Valieres performance is by far the strongest I've seen in her entire career. Because if she arrives with today's format at Flèche Wallonne, I would say she top 10's Flèche Wallonne.
Yeah, she was stronger than that level today. I think it's a little bit like Squibon last year. I think Valieres has shown a few flashes on the in races that hasn't necessarily been, given her big results.
Yeah.
But she's been in groups where you're like, surprised you're there. Like, for example, yeah, she was in the breakaway on the Madeleine stage, survived to come top 15. So she's a strong rider, and this was her only way to win. The only way pretty much for her to win was to ride like this. Same with Niamh Fisher Black, same with Mavi Garcia, same with... If you're a very good rider on a not favorite nation, the World Champs is actually a great place to be in the women's, because you get the leash to go in these moves. Like if Valieres or Fisher Black were on the Dutch team, they don't get this leash. Yeah. So it's actually a benefit. And then Italy, France, and the Netherlands. I mean, yeah, 21 Tokyo was the Netherlands to blame. To me, Italy I blame a little bit less, actually, because they did work and then they got attacked when they were working. I think France, I couldn't understand what France are doing.
Yeah, but I think you nail a point quite well there, where you're talking about the dynamics of country-based racing, nation-based racing, and like you say, she's part of a team here that has limited riders, where she'll have the freedom to ride for herself, and she also is aware of her level, that she won't be able to compete with the top riders in the final lap of a parcours like this on paper, based on her previous performances before today. So because of that, she realized, okay, I need to put myself in the position to do so, which is going into the attack like a Niamh Fisher Black, which Fisher Black is on paper even higher on the call sheet when it comes to final lap performances than Valieres. So also shout out to Fisher Black for putting herself in that position, choosing to go ahead, because she knows that if it comes down to a final lap move, that it will be difficult. Those actions are very valuable, but also on top of that is that interesting, because if you're that type of rider, that tier 2, 3 rider on paper, outsider for the race, then being on a smaller country really benefits you. If you're Valieres, like you said, on a major team, then it depends. It depends, because on paper you'd say, yes, then one, she would be domestique for another rider to begin with today. Secondarily, she might not have the freedom to do so because Italy might react, Netherlands might react, etc. The other top teams, hypothetically. But then, also on top of that, there is, in a way, one-day races where if you've got a massive favorite in your team, or if you've got team-based racing in a bigger team, then it could benefit you. But that goes into the dynamics of these races a bit too long, I think. But I think in general, she knew her place beforehand. She went out there. She chose a tactic that would put her in the best possible position to get a potential result here. She probably never thought remotely about winning the rainbow jersey here, but she ends up doing it. And I gotta say, refreshing her palmarès page from this morning to right now is looking at Trofeo Palma Femina being the biggest victory, the only victory really, to now being Trofeo Palma Femina and World Championships road race. That's insane.
Crazy. And that goes to show, respect to her, great race. She beats Fisher Black by 23 seconds in the end. Fisher Black just holds off Mavi. for the silver medal. Elise Shabby, I mean, you can see it wasn't easy to come from the back to the front by using the climbs, which are so short. Shabby loses time to Valliers in the last couple of Ks. She finishes on 41 seconds, and she was very close to them on the last climb. So it's not easy to come from the back to the front. Niedermeyer was also in front. She got dropped. I don't really think Germany did anything wrong, frankly, because I just didn't see Lippert as a big favorite today.
I would also add, do you think there's a reality in the fact that I feel like when we've watched women's races, the longer races, the harder races in the last 2-3 years, that races like 170 kilometers, whatever, today, etc. Also at the Tour de France last year, I think we had the mention of a stage like that the differences between the top riders, which you'd assume would become bigger at the end of a harder race, actually became smaller in a certain way.
Well, yeah, we have so few monument, like really hard races. What did this have? 3,676 meters of climbing. That maybe Valliers, maybe if there was a 200k race every month, she'd be a top 10 rider in the world. I don't know. Maybe Vollering, maybe Ferrand-Prévot was the limit, or I don't know. I think and then Shabby was 4th, Marcus 5th, Niedermeyer 6th. Vollering leads the group in. She just beat Kim LeCourt-Pinard for the sprint for 7th. They were a minute 34 back. Royce 9th, Niewiadoma 10th, Anderson 11th. I would say LeCourt-Pinard was at the mercy of the big teams. I don't think she could have done anything differently. She got into the right counter moves.
Yep.
She played it exactly as she needed to, and I think they just didn't chase the break. So
she's
what's she gonna do?
Almost in one of the hardest situations when it comes to nation-based racing, where she's a top dog on a team without a single proper teammate. So as a consequence, she literally is a victim to the race. Everything happens around her, and she had a near-perfect scenario today, as in she had a near-perfect scenario where, there was a group up the road, and on paper there's the responsibility for all the big teams behind to start to react because their riders up ahead are dropping, but the gap became so big that she was unable to really benefit from that. She then gets into that move, like you said, that would potentially bridge it, but then the legs aren't good enough anymore, and it's at the end of the day, is it just legs? But was it also legs when it comes to Ferrand-Prévot and Vollering? Because there's a few moments in this race where I see Longo Borghini doing her absolute best to close a gap or something, and then she looks around to Vollering to ride with her, and Vollering doesn't ride. She looks around for PFP, who then doesn't relay either. And I'm sorry, but if they never relay with Longo Borghini, they're never going to get closer either, eh?
Exactly. Vollering was getting dropped a few times. Ferrand-Prévot, I wouldn't even... Yeah, she attacked in a big gear one time, but was very passive. And so I think that's probably the answer, that there was some riders stronger than expected, weaker than expected in the favorite. Like Royce was very, very strong, but not strong enough. Yeah. I think Shabby's the one who's missed out here.
Because she's also... Can I be honest? Shabby's also the kind of rider that could have been up the road.
Yeah.
She's not one of the top dogs beforehand.
She should have been in that group.
Yeah. Shabby could have been on paper in that group, but then again, they were represented with 3 other riders, but not the rider that necessarily might have been the best option, Switzerland.
I wonder if we'll ever see this change.
What?
All these teams, they go in with the plan that they want to shirk responsibility because they don't want to work. And so their idea is to we'll be represented in the group ahead. In fact, we're going to jump with Kerbal to create a group. And then they get in the group with the minor nations with good riders, and then they lose. It's just control the race.
I agree with you there, but I would have to say next to that initially Italy started off relatively well in that sense.
Italy,
But it's then in the second, it's the last 40 kilometers where the whole race goes sideways.
Yeah.
That's when Malcotti's in the front group. It's the SD Works effect. It's what we've been saying about SD Works for the last 4 years in Paris-Roubaix, when they decided to get Femke Marquez into a breakaway with Alison Jackson, who then ends up winning the race. That's the same kind of scenario we have today. Because then behind you don't have the strength to get back, and you have this representation fallacy of, okay, I'm at the front of the race, so I don't need to do anything at the back. But if every single big country has that, and is in that same situation, then someone needs to bite, because then you're basically allowing your tier 2 rider in the breakaway to fight it out with other tier 2 riders, which leaves you without the advantage of having your top rider versus the other riders. So...
FDJ and Visma did the same thing in Amstel this year.
Yeah.
Oh, we have Bunel in front. Oh, we have Juliette Lebeau in front. I'm like, cool. There's also Misha Bredevold in front. Like, so it's like, oh, you can put me and Benji in a group ahead. It's not going to help you. It's
After
not
a couple of Morton gels. I don't know about that, buddy.
So you better use me and Benji for 30 seconds to control the race than be in a group ahead, I would say.
Neutral zone. That's when I'm done.
I'd crash in neutral zone. All right, let me do a quick round. That was the women's race. I'm happy. I knew that always at every World Championships there has to be one, especially when it's not in Europe. There's a sort of very big surprise winner. So yeah, congrats to Valieres, and I wonder if her career will really kick on from here. I will do a quick roundup of the other races. Lorenzo Finn, first year U23, he won the men's under-23 World Championships after winning the Junior World Championships last year. The Italo-Yorkshireman on Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe. Apparently, he will be continuing with the rookies for a second year next year, and then obviously he will join the world team when he is good and ready. I think the surprise was Jan Huber, who has not been a big name on the U23 circuit whatsoever. Frankly, he hasn't raced at U23 until, except for national events in Switzerland.
I think Lavenier was like the first time I realized he existed.
Yeah, no one knew him outside of Switzerland.
Bro literally arrived 11th in GC to Lavenier, which is a good result, but it's also kind of out of nowhere because, let's be honest about it, I'm not exactly following the Swiss national circuit too closely. I know Patrick's hardcore into like the Hong Kong national circuit, etc., but Switzerland wasn't on my radar. Sorry?
I also wasn't following GP Ober Basel Byte, but maybe I should have been. I definitely should have been.
Well, there's a guy called Miro Schmidt there. Is that a brother of? Imagine calling your kids Mauro and Miro.
It has to be.
It's not family. It's not family, apparently. I'm sorry. No, that's very sad. Anyway, I'll have to dive into the Swiss national circuit after that result. But that was something. But how do we feel about Jarno Widar?
Well, yeah, he comes second, Strettel third, and as Benji said, Widar had the Belgian team control the race, and then the lights went out. I'm not sure what happened, but yeah, he finished 5 minutes down. I thought he was going to win, frankly. Like I thought the course was really good for him. So maybe I don't know what happened. Lights too bright for Belgium there, buddy.
We should have at the end of the year, we should have like a generational talent or fraud game where we have to classify every rider from like the top 25 junior and top 25 U23 riders
and the World Tour riders.
Talent or fraud. And then in 2 years, we have to go back to that ranking and see how shit our predictions were.
Yeah. Well, Widar is a good rider.
Well, not at U23 World Championships, buddy.
No.
I'm in Belgium now, so I shouldn't say that. They could literally arrest me.
Evidently not. Men's junior, I'm not sure if we said, but Harry Hudson won that with a long solo. Very, very impressive. He is rumored to go to Little Trek Devo next year. Second was Johan Blanc and Jan-Michel Jakowiak. The pole was third. And then in the women's juniors, it was won by Paola Ostiz this morning. I dare say the worst tactics today were the Italian ones in the final of that. Because they had two riders. And Paola Ostiz, she knows what she's doing. If you watch her race, she's riding with a really high level of race IQ. Very efficient. You never see her. She knows exactly how she's going to win, and she's not going to do too much work, and that's exactly what happened.
And it's weird because, like, we talk about Lorenzo Finn winning that Junior World Championships and then going U23 World Championships, then another year riding for the rookies, etc. In women's cycling, that U23 bracket is less formed, and as a consequence, we have every single talent of the level of Paula Ostis jumping straight to World Tour, basically. She's already a trainee, I'm pretty sure, at the moment, but
she's already done a Doc Pro race.
What, sorry?
She's already done a Doc Pro race as a junior, like Ferguson did.
So, like, we see that jump quicker now on women's cycling, actually, than men's cycling, I feel like. Because I feel like in men's cycling, we've grown to the point of some riders have realized that jumping to World Tour too early is a mistake.
Yeah.
And in women's cycling, that is not really as much of an option because U23 is part of World Tour. Like, there's the top of Avenir is all World Tour riders.
Well, yeah, the U23 circuit is not as well developed. There's not as many teams with development teams. The ones that do probably have an advantage, like Jayco, because they can sign the top talents who aren't ready to go to World Tour. But yeah, Ostis wins the sprint ahead of Pigolo. Anya Grossman's first year junior, she was third. She was very strong. Sviarenga fourth. And then
we've spoken about Anya before.
She's a mountain bike rider, I think.
When did we... Piccolo Alfredo Binda? Maybe that is when we spoke about it? I think so.
She's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then in the women's U23s, two of the women who were fighting Ostis last year were also battling straight away there. Celia Géry won, Victoria Kladnova second, Paola Blasi third. Marion Bunel attacked on the last cobble climb, and Kladnova followed her. And then Bunel did the lead out because Géry's pretty unbeatable in a sort of small group sprint. So yeah, Géry was strong enough to follow Kladnova on the long climbs and then take the sprint victory. I think that's all the results.
Yep, that is all the results. But do we feel like the last couple of days have changed our opinion about the men's race? Because it's weird. I feel like no, just because of the fact that the parcours are so different.
Yeah, it's hard to say because they have a long-ass climb in the middle of the men's race. It's not like it's a really long climb. And how many domestiques will still be left after that? I do think if it was just this circuit, I would say I'd be concerned for Poggi. Because if he has no domestiques, and like representation fallacy, it's not a fallacy anymore if you're against Poggi. If you, Remco, have Van Wilder in a group ahead, you don't pull. You actually do let Van Wilder play it out. You actually...
But would you also say that, are we still, as of the opinion, I don't know if I've ever been of the opinion, but like, how do we feel about the non-participation of riders like Mathieu van der Poel in this men's race?
They've misassessed it. I think Van der Poel and Van Aert, this is a course they could have been very competitive on.
Big Van Aert, definitely. I'm not sure about current Van Aert.
Yeah, like maybe
Van der Poel, I'd say yes.
After doing Classics Giro Tour, probably it wasn't feasible. But but in theory, his peak level, this is a good course for him. And for Van der Poel, you can say, and I got caught by the trap too. Of look at the altitude gain. Look at how many altitude meters there are. But it's two short climbs apart from the middle long one at 100 k's to go. But it is decided on two short climbs. GP Plouay, Bretagne Classic, also had nearly 5,000 meters of climbing. Olaf Koy nearly won. Because if you're in the peloton and all the climbing's being accumulated on roller, and you're really efficient like Van der Poel is, then he's got to survive, an 800 meter, 8%. I mean, he'd probably still get dropped, but he would have been competitive.
I think we're up for a pretty good race tomorrow.
Who do I like more? Climbers. Yeah. I like Van Wilder. What do you think about the World Tour U23s not being able to do the U23 road race?
Oh, I have no real issue about that.
Don't you think it makes it worse?
For me, the youngster races, U23 and junior races, have always been about, I'm trying to find out what the next talent is going to be, etc. Like, I'm sorry, but in 5 years, I don't give a flying fuck that Mohoric won the U23 World Championships back in the day. For me, those are races where I'm trying to find out, okay, is this Mohoric character a good rider?
You don't know. Because Finn didn't beat Sex Ass.
Okay. Lorenzo Finn, I don't think we need any confirmation that he's a pretty good rider. I think we can assess from his career so far that he's a pretty good rider.
Yeah, doesn't it mean more if you beat Sex Ass?
I'm sorry, like, well,
I just don't get it. There can be guys on
was
Devo.
Sex Ass last year?
I don't know.
He wrote junior, right?
Yeah, Finn towed him up in the juniors. You have guys on Devo teams earning probably more money than World Tour guys on minimum who can't race.
Yeah, but like that's part of the choice, eh? I think the restriction, I gave my opinion last year, actually. I don't think the restriction should be Ironman World Tour team. I think the restriction should be based on the amount of World Tour races you've ridden or something like that, or based on the amount of UCI points you've gotten in a certain classification of races. Just thinking out loud right now, eh?
That's a better point.
But I'm not sure the UCI can think that far based on their decisions in the last couple of years.
Mm.
They'd have to think for that to be the case.
Like if you've done an entirely pro schedule, I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, but well, what schedule did Paul Sixels ride this year? He rode Dauphiné. I'm sorry, if you ride the Dauphiné and right. If you topped in the Dauphiné, you're not fucking showing up to the U23 World Championships. Get the fuck out of here with your Paul Sixels.
Let him, Maximus Cockwomble, and Victor Leleur. That'd be a lethal team.
Or Maxime de Comble. Poor guy's listening to his favorite Lanterne Rouge podcast de cyclisme, and he's getting roasted.
I like de Comble. You know what? I saw him come third or second to Derek G in the Gran Camino TT, and I stood up like, damn, he's a pretty good rider. So I respect de Comble. I just get his name wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, but we've got the men's road race tomorrow. We might end it there. I haven't seen any. I've been scrolling Twitter, and have you seen any explosive quotes or anything?
Well, I've seen the Schelmoser drama. We can talk about the Schelmoser drama.
Well, I meant for the women's road race, but yeah, go on with that.
So Juan Ayuso is now announced as a transfer to go to Little Trek for, I think, 5 years. Yeah, it's a 5-year contract. Obviously, there's a few riders already present in Little Trek. You've got Mes Pedersen, Jonathan Milan, but also Mr. Schelmoser. Schelmoser, I don't have his exact quote ahead of me, so maybe Patrick can look it up while I ramble on about how I interpreted this quote. Schelmoser basically said, the team told me for the last couple of years that they build a team around me. With Ayuso coming in, don't really see how that will work. That's the vibe I got. And also he said if Ayuso's not necessarily or didn't help Pogacar that perfectly at UAE, how is he going to show up and help poor old Schelmoser at Little Trek? That's the vibe I got from Schelmoser. I gotta say, I don't really feel like Schelmoser has a palmarès yet for Little Trek to show up and say, mate, here's a full Grand Tour team for you, buddy. I don't have that feeling either. But I do understand the situation because he's probably been promised things that are now overwritten.
Has he been promised? I mean, Little Trek promised to construct a full Tour de France team around Matthias Schelmoser?
I don't know. Apparently.
I think maybe he thinks they should.
I do believe that they have told him at some point, we're trying to build a team around him. That I believe is in some way true. A Tour de France team? That I don't know.
I mean, there's 3 Grand Tours. Ayuso's not really one for the Ardennes.
And wait. One detail here. And a person from Little Trek, maybe Kim Andersen, I'm not completely sure, Anderson said that UAE and Visma have shown that for a GC rider like Ayuso, you need to build a full team around the GC rider. without focus on sprints, etc., for the perfect bid for that Grand Tour. So he's basically saying that we'll see Pedersen and Milan not be in the Grand Tour that Juan Ayuso rides next year.
But he's also yes, and so that's where it gets
tricky.
He's
not correct in my opinion.
Well,
Ayuso has not shown to me that he deserves a complete team in support. You can shove Pedersen in there.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think it's going to be tricky to manage because, Schelmoser wants a Grand Tour leadership. Ciccone needs his freedom. Maybe he accepts GC's not for him, but he still needs his freedom. Pedersen wants 2 Grand Tours or the Tour. Milan needs a Grand Tour. Milan, they're the defending points jersey winners of all 3 Grand Tours. They've don't worry about it. Where has he been?
I don't know. I think he
put him in your generational talent or fraud. He can be the first one we can talk about.
We got to have that podcast,
bro. In the first week of the tour, he's like, "Where have these guys been all year?" I was like, "Mate, not racing GP, shipping it or .1, fucking yeah, Pog and Rem coming." But isn't Kim Anderson right that you need, if you're not going to have Pog or Vingegaard, then you should do what Red Bull did and have 2 guys?
Well, that part I fully agree with, but the other part I don't agree with. The part where you're fully focused on your GC, if you don't have Vingegaard or Pogacar.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's also just not true. I mean, Visma never did that in 22 and 23 with Van Aert.
It's like Gaudu showing up at Groupama FDJ and saying, buddies, I want my entire team in support of me and Arnaud Demar can't show up. Well, that's kind of what happened, and we saw the result of it.
Yeah, he came 4th.
Well, no, that was the year before, no?
Ah, okay. He won a Vuelta stage, though.
Wow. I'm so happy for him.
I think, I don't see Schelmoser and Ayuso being too problematic to combine. There's loads of one-week races, which, by the way, I mean, so
out of contract next year, Schelmoser.
Okay. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I also read in Tutto Bici or Bici Pro, I read that
they're all the same.
I read that Ayuso, the total contract value is 25 million, and Bici Pro said that the buyout was 10 million to UAE.
Ooh.
And so that's why it's 5 years. That's why it's a 5-year contract.
Wait.
Because you need the extra years to smooth out the buyout fee, which isn't a buyout fee. It's a total amount that goes to Ayuso, and then the way it works is the rider settles the buyout with the team. But that's why it's the extra years.
If you only sign a user for 3 years, then paying 10 million buyout is not worth it. Well,
exactly.
I think it's a lot of money for 25 million over 5 years for a user right now is a risk.
Right, he can't climb.
Well, he's shown in the past that he can climb in certain occasions.
When?
But not at the Vuelta. I don't agree with you on that. I wouldn't classify him under can't climb. I would classify as Vuelta under can only win the stage from the breakaway.
You take Lipovic, Only, or Ayuso as a climber.
Out of those 3, it's always Lipovic.
And then second? It's Only.
I would go for Ayuso because of marketing. Only doesn't have that vibe in the marketing. I'm sorry.
No. I mean climbing.
Only shows up in the media is like, I'm gonna fight for the podium today, which is fine. It's a normal reaction, etc. Ayuso shows up and says,
No. I'm
at this World Championships to win this fucking thing against Pogacar and Evenepoel, not for silver or bronze.
No, Ayuso got a better sprint. All that. I'm just saying climbing.
Marketing is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm sending him to every podcast that exists with a full open mouth, even if it's about my team.
Yeah. But yeah, you think it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to invest, like you said, and I agree, and we'll see how it goes. That being said, I think Trek had to do it. I mean, he's such a good rider. He can win 10 races a year at a good level. He can win he can win GC 1 weeks on a softer Grand Tour. He can podium. So yeah, I think he's they had to do it because they want to be the best team in the world. And yeah, we'll see how he goes. But otherwise, I just got some quotes from Demi Vollering. She says that it was good that we
That's
had
an insane amount of money. Sorry, I'm just crazy. 25
get
million.
Paid a lot.
Like GC rider, sure, that he gets 3 million per year. I expected that. I did not expect the buyout money to be 10 million. Sorry for interrupting Vollering.
Yeah, but UAE held all the cards.
Yeah, but Ayuso didn't have all the cards to get 25 million out of Little Trek to me.
They didn't get Remco. Vingegaard's locked up. Libovic's locked up. Roglic is probably going to be his last year next year. Only's got another 2 years. What are you going to do?
They can build a Tour de France team around skill muscle, my friend.
Yeah, I guess. Like, yeah, that was the other option. So I think it makes sense. So when's Pedersen got a lifetime contract? Milan just extended. So yeah.
For me, my current ceiling, based on what I've seen from Ayuso,
25 mil. It's a big number, isn't it?
It's a very big number. When I think of Ayuso now, I think, okay, he could win a Giro d'Italia with a minor, with a field like this year.
Yeah, yes.
That's the thought process.
Except on Finesse.
He can top 5 at Tour de France with the level I've seen so far. Potentially fight for a podium if things happen or if he steps up a little bit, stuff like that. He cannot compete with Pogacar or Vingegaard, that level.
Or Almeida. Or
and he can podium Vuelta, he's shown that already. So that's the level I see. And he can win 1 week races, etc. throughout the year, sure. But 25 million for that? What the fuck?
Yeah, but he can win you one-day races. Yeah, but he can win one-day races with UCI points. He can win the aggregate value he'll provide. Like he'll get you the 3,000 UCI points a year if he's happy and healthy. Yeah, so I can understand it. But is he going to step up to be? Because Almeida's better than him right now. It's a GC rider.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, and then you got maybe another young guy comes up from beneath. You got what if Lorenzo Finn in 18 months is better than Ayuso?
Yeah,
could be. Bora will be hoping for.
For your view on Only, do you think if Oscar Only was at the Giro with the level at the Tour de France, would he have won the Giro?
Well, it's hard to say because probably his bike would have had a puncture in the Siena stage, and then where how much time would he have lost? His TT's poo.
Oscar Only's Tour de France was fantastic, but you can't tell me that we've seen that consistently throughout his career so far. That was the breakout performance.
Well, Swissy was pretty good.
He still fucking lost there.
Swissy, UAE was pretty good. I mean, what else did he do?
For me, current ceiling of Only is he can potentially. For me, current ceiling for Only is he can podium every Grand Tour.
That's pretty good.
But that's the same I have for Ayuso.
I know because I think the Tour de France has hard climbs that Only did on Col de la Loza. Ayuso's never done in his career.
That is correct.
So, 4 seconds behind Vingegaard, 13 seconds behind Pogacar after 170 Ks, 5,600 meters climbing. Ayuso never did that. So, it's also the team imbalance. He's on one of a lower budget team. He's doing it. So, could Only have won the Giro? Maybe.
I don't think so.
Maybe.
I think he in Tour de France from he podiums, but that's contextually everything could have happened among the course. Strade Bianche stage, whatever. But level wise, he could have podiumed that race.
Yeah.
But I think when I think
he
of
nearly
Only,
podiumed the Tour.
What? Sorry.
He nearly podiumed the Tour.
Yeah, he nearly podiumed the Tour, but the Tour de France is also a race compared to the Giro with usually less situations happening throughout the parcours.
Oh, I don't know. It had that first week. It was pretty hectic.
Giro is usually more rainy.
True, there was a Slovenian stage.
More often has a Strade Bianche stage.
There's always one Giro stage where, for some reason, through none of their fault, the GC leaders, some of them lose time because random shit happens.
Like a hay bale in the Tour de France. So
yeah, well, no, that's not a cobble set. I mean, the Slovenia stage, for some reason, they went through the town and it was pave and it was raining and no one could stay on the bike, and then guys lost time. But yeah, maybe we're going into off-season territory. We should write that down. Everybody write that down. GC rider power ranking, top 10 GC rider power ranking.
Okay.
Off-season.
And we each have one?
We each have a top 10 list of right now, if you had to take them, irrelevant of salary.
Which order would you
What
take
order?
them?
So obviously first Vingegaard, then Pogačar, then...
sorry, yeah.
Exactly.
I don't agree.
We can get some hot takes out of it. So yeah.
Alex Aramburu.
Benjamin Noval. Would you rather have Benjamin Noval right now or
Juan Ayuso?
Juan Ayuso?
I'd rather have Ayuso right now because I can just get Noval later if I have enough money. That's you said without money, so
true. Yeah, the money's there. That's a problem. Alrighty, we'll end it here. We're in off-season territory. Thanks for listening. We'll see you with the men's recap tomorrow. Ciao, 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 ciao.